I've sold over $1 million on my main Etsy store, and it's been up for just over 3 years now. And here are some of the top lessons, strategies, mistakes, and things I learned over these 3 years so that hopefully you can learn them faster than I did. The first hard truth that I learned on Etsy that I did not think would be the case is that the Etsy algorithm and strategies are consistently changing. The strategies and pricing structures and types of bestsellers, things that did really well 3 years ago, were not true 3 years later or even 1 year later. When I first started, free shipping was absolutely detrimental to offering in your store. Etsy was highly prioritizing people that offered free shipping versus nowadays, after doing some tests, I noticed the importance of that in your ranking slightly going down, and I held up such a barrier to changing up my pricing strategy because of what I previously believed. But again, the algorithm is always changing, and so I'm always running tests, and I started to see that actually lately offering free shipping wasn't something that would make or break your store. When I first started, descriptions did not play a part in your SEO versus now they do. And so I had to take time going back to old listings and changing up how I did SEO moving forward after this change. And this is not the only SEO change Etsy has ever made, and it's not going to be the only one they make in the future. What were bestsellers for me 3 years ago were not the bestseller for me a year later. Things that are currently my bestseller are not going to be my bestseller again, most likely in a few months. There are ones that can keep selling, but certain trends do influence how a listing sells. I've been lucky that lately my niche has picked up in popularity. It was already selling for me before, and I've been focusing on it for a while. But based on some research I've been seeing, the trend has been increasing. But it's not going to increase forever, and I'm probably going to be on the downside of that trend eventually. So when people assume that you can learn, list a bunch of things on Etsy, and just leave it forever, and that you're going to be making money forever is untrue, because like a lot of platforms out there, algorithms change, people's wants and likes change, people's psychology in buying changes. So if you want to keep making sales on Etsy, you're going to have to keep evolving with the platform. The second big lesson that I learned, and the reason I think I am successful today, is because to be able to be successful, you need to look at what's out there and find your own way to be different or add extra value. You can do this by finding new ways to add personalization, making a design better, clearer, changing the type of products, because maybe someone who likes this type of design on a t-shirt would also like it on a mug. But again, you can't be copying someone's design that is not adding value. That is just stealing, which is going to get your store shut down. So don't do that. You have to find a way to make something better or appeal to another subset group within this niche. If you want to learn more about this, I have a full YouTube video on how I do my research and then find ways to add value and differentiate yourself. I will link that video up next for you guys to watch. The next thing I have learned, and this has become increasingly more important again, as there's more people on Etsy, so it's more important now than ever to make as realistic as possible mock-ups. There are so many people I see on Etsy that have photoshopped in a fake background. They have laid out their design on a t-shirt, but you can see the wrinkles in the shirt. You can see the hair going through the design. So you absolutely know that this is not a real photo. So I make sure I spend a lot of time on my main mock-up and even the mock-ups that follow that. I don't select any mock-ups that will cut off my design or make it look fake. I don't pick mock-ups that are super wrinkly. If they are super wrinkly, I'll use the Canva eraser tool to erase the wrinkle to make it look flatter so that my design looks more realistic on it. In extreme cases, I also use Photopea, which is the free version of Photoshop Online, to make my design actually fit to the shirt with the wrinkles, following the highlights and lowlights and everything. That has helped me stick out when everyone else in my niche has mock-ups that are obviously mock-ups and mine look more realistic. When you go through bestsellers on Etsy, you're not going to find one that look like a fake mock-up. Again, the more realistic and time you put into making sure it looks realistic, the more likely it is going to sell. Going through bestsellers, I'm not seeing ones where a wrinkle is cutting off the design, the hair is covering the design. The more realistic ones are doing well, and it's very, very rare that you're going to see a bestseller where you can obviously tell that the design on it was not printed and it was just laid on top using Canva. The next one is controversial, but I am not racing to the bottom. And by that, I am not trying to price compete with all of my competitors that are trying to sell their shirts for $11. Some of them have it listed at $7, so that's not their real price. If you actually go into their listing, it's usually a size that's not available or a baby shirt, which doesn't really make sense with that design. So they're actually not charging that low anyway. But even so, competing on price is just going to be driving your store into the ground. There are stores out there, and many of them, that charge way more than other people and still have tons of bestsellers. They're making a lot more profit per order. The people buying from them are less likely to complain because they're not trying to just get a shirt for $7. They're also not feeling ripped off because they saw that your product was selling for $7, but when they checked out, it was actually $30 because you had hidden prices in your listing. So I'm more upfront about having higher prices on my Etsy listing, having less surprises when someone checks out, and people are going to perceive my shirt as higher value if they're shopping for value instead of just trying to get the cheapest shirt possible, which if I bought a shirt for $7.99, I would expect it to fall apart pretty fast. And again, I focus more on creating value and or differentiating myself. Meaning, if someone wants to buy my shirt, they're not going to find someone selling the exact same thing for a way cheaper price because I created something original, higher value, different. So if they really wanted that product, they're going to be willing to spend more. Again, if you are just trying to copy everybody else out there, then the only differentiator between you and them is going to be price, which case you're both going to keep lowering your price until you're making zero profit and it's not worth it anymore. In fact, the store that I count as my competitor, more because they're in my niche and they're doing so well, they charge higher than anyone I have seen on Etsy, and they get such good reviews. Their designs are super different from other people, and that's why they're doing so well. I've seen they put extra effort into their mock-ups. Again, they're charging higher. They're not charging high shipping prices, but they are charging shipping. But the main thing that they're offering is just being different and adding value, and then they don't have to compete on price. And so for me, I'm slightly cheaper than them. I'm not copying their designs at all. I'm trying to differentiate in my own way, but they are my inspiration and my proof that you don't need to be charging bottom of the barrel prices to be successful on Etsy. The next thing that I learned on Etsy to be successful is there is a power in numbers. We don't want to be sacrificing quality for quantity, but unfortunately, both do matter here. To be getting a lot of continuous sales, having more listings out there covering multiple different keywords, bringing customers back, allowing you to be found by more people with more niches is going to find you more continuous success in day-to-day sales than if you just listed 10 products. So over the week, a lot of the time I am focused on adding new products to my store. This could be just changing up a listing. Maybe I have a bestseller design in another niche, so I'll change it to fit a different niche. So I already have the quality and proof that I know this design works, but I'm getting up a brand new listing and it's now covering new keywords with new titles, new niches, and I'm reaching a new group of people. Though possible, again, it is very rare to have a small number of listings and to be making continuous daily sales. For me, I didn't make daily sales till I had at least 400 listings up. I didn't get my first sale until I had 70 listings up, and I have over 1,000 listings live now with hundreds deactivated because they're my old ones that I don't like anymore. But to slowly keep building your store is important if you want to keep scaling your store and your sales upwards. And you might be thinking, well, how am I going to get hundreds of listings up? I don't even know how to create that many designs within one niche. And this is my next controversial lesson or point that I found works for my store is you don't need to stick to one niche only. In fact, I started my store with a whole bunch of different niches. And then I found which niches worked for me and I started tailoring my store to those. But even though now I do have a main niche, I still sell a bunch of other niches in that store. Here's a really popular store on Etsy. They have over 200,000 sales. Yes, because they have 6,000 listings. This is an absolute extreme case. I think they're the only ones I've seen with this many listings. So don't think you need to get 6,000 listings up. I'm pretty sure they have a team. Less is okay, but still quantity is important. But if you take a look through their listings, they cover so many different niches: pregnancy, wedding, teacher, baking, dog, cat, animal, coffee, wine, flower, plant lover, nurse, dentist, doctor, pretty much every niche you can think of. And they do that so that no matter what you are searching on Etsy, they have a product for you because that's how how Etsy works. People search for what they already know they're looking for. They already probably know they want a coffee shirt. So they look up a coffee shirt. Ikerson, this store here, has a shirt for coffee shirts. Or a teacher comes in knowing they want a teacher shirt. They have that as well. Again, on Etsy, people find you via searches. So having a niche on Etsy isn't as important as having a niche, say, for Shopify or for some other platforms where people buy from your website alone. People here are buying from your listing. What I don't recommend doing though is if you're doing a bunch of different niches, is having a ton of different products also in your store. Niche down on your product and try different niche ideas out there. So if you have t-shirts, try a bunch of niches, but stick to t-shirts. If you have sweatshirts, try a bunch of niches, but stick to sweatshirts. Because if you trying a bunch of products and niches, you're going to lose all focus and your store is going to look really, really confusing if people do actually come into your Etsy store. You need something that you focus on versus if someone was selling yard signs and mugs, I would wonder, how are they doing both of these? Like, they don't make sense together. So niche down on product and then try a bunch of different keywords. The next one is extremely important, and that is you absolutely need to be doing continuous research to be finding continuous success. Like I mentioned before, Etsy is consistently changing. And by doing research, I've been able to spot strategies start to change. Like I started to notice when people started offering shipping more and they were still making sales, you'll see certain mock-ups doing really well. You'll see certain products. Before, Comfort Colors t-shirts were not popular, and now they're one of the main selling t-shirts. But if you didn't do your research, you would have thought Bella Canvas Forever is doing the best. And this can also depend on your niche. In some niches, Bella Canvas still does better. In some niches, Comfort Colors does better. You won't know unless you do your research. Trends come and go. Right now, coquette, which is like bows, very girly, is a trend, and people are combining it with every niche. There's teacher coquette shirts, politician coquette shirts. Pretty much every niche has been combined with this trend right now because this trend is absolutely killing it. Bootleg or unhinged shirts were doing really, really, really well. They're still doing well, but might be ending the trend soon. But if you want to be keeping up with trends and you have a bestseller within that trend, once this trend dies, it might not continue to be, again, your bestseller, but you won't uncover the new next coming trend unless you're doing this research. To this day, I spend about half of my Etsy time just doing research, trying to find trends. I sometimes see which mockups right now are absolutely killing it. And it's very important that this is budgeted into your time. A lot of people find research a waste of time, but I would say it is the most important part of running your business, and then knowing how to implement that research into your listings as well. The next one is going to be a hard lesson for people to learn. For some people, it might be obvious. For some people not, but just because someone else is doing something doesn't mean you should. There are so many times I get messages saying, I'm gonna sell Disney shirts because I saw that other stores are making a killing selling Disney shirts. And yes, some people make an absolute killing doing Disney shirts, but that does not mean it's legal, and that does not mean they're not gonna get in trouble. A lot of these stores know they're gonna get in trouble. They know their store is gonna get shut down. So they allow their store to get shut down. They reopen another one, but they're constantly risking a major legal battle. There has been stories of people being sued for selling copyrighted products. So just because someone else on Etsy is getting away with selling a Spider-Man shirt, that does not mean that you should. Trust me, you will lose sleep, because if you are just constantly like, am I gonna get in trouble tomorrow? Am I gonna get in trouble? Even though you make those sales, they're not gonna feel that good, and you just know you're constantly skirting the line. So just stay original. Don't be doing something illegal or a little bit questionable just because other people are getting away with it. And trust me, I know how tempting it can be because these sell like crazy, but again, in the long run, not worth it. The next one is you need to be studying your data when you have it. Etsy shares some data, not the best data, but they'll share a little bit. And with that data, you need to make important decisions. Like for me, I'm always studying, what are my best sellers? Do I have a color that's doing really well? Is there a mock-up that I'm noticing is bringing in all my best sellers? I have had that where I had one forest green mock-up that whenever I put a design on it and I tried it against a different mock-up, so I duplicated the listing, I tried one mock-up and tried another, this mock-up was always winning. So I started always putting designs on that mock-up. I'm constantly doing A/B testing like this to see which mock-ups are doing better. On Etsy, you can also see which keywords people are finding you by. Etsy did share a little bit more information before, but it seems like they've removed one of the tabs, but you can still find some really helpful information by going to your stats and then scrolling down and clicking on where how shoppers found you clicking on one of these. And then you can change the date. So you can go all time, you can go last 30 days, this month, and then you can switch between these tabs: Etsy search, Etsy marketing, social media, direct and other traffic, and Etsy app. So I'm going to stay on Etsy search, and then you can see your listings, and you can also see popular search terms that people found you by. So things like comfort colors mockup. A lot of people are finding me through that keyword. So maybe that's when I write down and I make sure to include in all of my other listings that sell comfort colors mockups. Or this is a decision to start making more comfort colors mockups. You can even click into individual listings within this page, and then scrolling down, you can see their trends, you can see how they were mostly found, and again, a very detailed breakdown of the search terms that people actually typed into Etsy that you appeared for. So if you had a dentist t-shirt that was doing really, really well and you wanted to make a brand new dentist t-shirt, maybe I would go look at all these stats and find what keywords are doing well for my other listing so that I can carry them forward to other dentist t-shirt listings. If you do social media, you can use this tab also to determine which platforms are doing really well for you, if it's worth it to be spending time on Pinterest. Say I was spending a whole lot of time on Pinterest, but I noticed on social media, it's only bringing 1% of my traffic. Maybe it's not where my time is best spent. But honestly, for this channel here or this Etsy store that I don't really use, I don't really have it on Pinterest anymore. So it's pretty expected that 1% of visits would come from here. But if I scroll down, I can even see that for my social stats, yes, Pinterest brought the most, but I also have Facebook in there. Say Facebook was bringing most of my traffic. Maybe I'd make the decision then to not spend time on Pinterest, but to spend time on Facebook if, again, it was driving enough traffic for it to really be worth it. So spend time going through data to help make decisions. Do A/B tests to find which niches are doing best for you, which color mockups are doing best for you, and this will help you spot patterns so that you can make decisions for any new listings you put up in the future. And my last quick tip, because I'm very much running out of time, is make sure you are prioritizing customer service. Getting 5 stars reviews, especially when you're first starting your store, is incredibly important on Etsy. If someone is really, really complaining, sometimes I'll just take the L and I will just refund their product just so they don't give me a 1-star review. I really want to make sure that my social proof on my Etsy store, which is one of the biggest deciding factors on Etsy if someone is going to purchase from you, is seeing those reviews and your star rating. So sometimes losing money on one order is worth it because it's going to affect so many orders past that. So in everything that I do, I try to make sure that I am having a great customer service implemented in my store. Thank you guys. And if you find this video helpful at all, please drop a like and subscribe. It would help me so much. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next week.